Can you guys hear me? Hopefully you can hear me. Welcome to the stream. Didn't plan on streaming today. I've been gathering so much information about alternative fuels and of the such recently that I wanted to make a video on it. But more information, I just kept stumbling upon more information talking about the sustainability of the internal combustion engine. So, everything seems to be going electrified. Is that the right solution for our environment, for our everyday life? I think it really depends on the person and that person's needs. I really believe that there's not a one-size-fit-all approach to the future of clean energy and clean transportation. I think there's more than one way to skin a cat in this situation. So thank you guys for coming out. I always love asking you guys, where are you from? Because it always blows my mind what far reaches of the earth you guys are crawling out of to come to my live stream. And special thanks to my wife, who's putting the kids to sleep right now. She's the true champion of the channel. So you guys, well, there we go. Calgary comes in as the first representative of the channel. So we have, gosh, guys, we have so much to go through. I have a lot of different articles I wanted to talk about. This just kind of gives you an idea. And if I really went off the deep end, I could have pulled up tons more. So most of the articles that I'll be bringing up today are alternatives to EVs. We know EVs, well, fully battery electric vehicles have no emissions at the tailpipe, but they do have emissions if you're not getting your energy clean. They also have production emissions. It is more heavy on the environment, on the Earth's atmosphere, as well as the Earth's crust in order to get the materials to build batteries and electric motors of the such. So, all right, we got Oregon, New York, Central California, Chicago. Thank you guys for coming out. And we're going to get into the first piece here. Toyota's diesel lineup in Western Europe to be made compatible with diesel fuel. So we have the Land Cruiser Prado, and we also have the Hilux. Neither of these vehicles we get here. However, we get the Prado as a Lexus GX here, United States. Of course, that's the gasoline, the petrol V8. Now, it will be replaced with a twin-turbo V6 with the next generation GX that is probably going to be coming out about a year from now, maybe a little bit more. Definitely by the end of 2023. Anyways, the 2023 model of the Land Cruiser and the Hilux are going to be made compatible with HVO diesel, a fossil-free fuel made from 100% renewable resources. So we'll talk about this real quick, then we'll switch over to this Volvo article, and that is a lot. We'll spend some time with that Volvo. And by the way, I'm getting a Volvo XC40 recharge Tuesday, I think, and swapping out the Tacoma TRD Pro that I have. So let's talk about this HVO 100. It's hydrated vegetable oil. It meets the EN 15940 European quality standards for paraffinic diesel. I don't think I've ever said that word before. It has a higher cetane number, cetane. Again, I'm not an engineer, but anyways, I'm guessing that means a higher energy density than standard diesel and has a lower sulfur and aromatics content, which means it must smell better. It is made from vegetable oil, palm or rapeseed, or waste-based feedstock. For example, cooking oil. So you have all these oils that have been used already, and what are you going to do with them? Are you just going to throw them away? No, use them as fuel. That makes a ton of sense to me. Now, I don't know what the sustainability of this is, meaning how much destruction is going into the environment to create these oils in the first place. That I have no idea, but it's amazing that we're using these oils for the original intended purposes. They're able to put them in a frickin' diesel. That is badass, if you ask me. And it's becoming more increasingly common in Europe with 1,000 stations where you can get this HVO 100 renewable diesel fuel in Belgium, Denmark, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden. So the northern-ish countries in Europe. Production is increasing with ambition to reach 5.5 million tons by 2030 from around 4 million tons currently produced per year. Diesel is far from dead, guys. Diesel actually might have longer legs than the gasoline engine for clean, just a clean existence in the future. Now, we'll talk maybe just a little bit about hydrogen being used as a substitute for gasoline in gasoline engines, but the problem with hydrogen is that it has to be compressed, so you have to have big tanks and strong tanks to compress it. That's in its gaseous form. Now, if you wanted to use liquid hydrogen, that has to be refrigerated, so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And refrigerated like near like 0 degrees Kelvin, it's really, really low. The boiling point of hydrogen is extremely low. So I don't know, like hydrogen does make sense if we can sustainably create it from renewable energy. I just think we're a ways off from like hydrogen fuel cell stacks being normal, hydrogen being available at gas stations, things like that. No audio? Can you guys not hear me? Apparently you can hear me because I asked where you're coming from. And you guys did say what parts of the world you're coming from. So yes, I do. I'll read a couple comments here. Fidian, I got an E85 tuned Miata, higher horsepower, worse miles per gallon, but E85 is way cheaper than gas, so it comes out less dollars per mile. Yeah. Well, it depends on the car. And the Miata might make sense, but in like bigger vehicles, it might not make a sense because your fuel economy might be so bad on E85. Hing on Sun says, right now, no power grid in the USA. Yeah, no, like, gosh, power grids are collapsing in the United States. Texas is under extreme load because of the temperatures there. So the AC and electricity consumption is through the roof, and the power grid's on the brink of just failing. We know there are blackouts pretty regularly in California. So, okay, audio is fine. Thank God. So I just think diesel is pretty incredible. And the fact that you can make a diesel engine to essentially run on a bunch of different fuels makes the diesel engine like the king technology for me. And I know it's so like, yes, there's like very little CO2 being produced from these like renewable fuels compared to actual diesel. There are still like nitrous oxide contaminants that go into the air, but it's almost negligible compared to what we have right now. All right, so we're going to switch gears. So Toyota's gearing up their vehicles in Europe that have diesels to run on biodiesel. We're going to go to this. Now, this is an older report from Volvo here, and this came out, I think, late last year. And I'm bringing this up because it reminded me, because I'm getting the XC40, not the C40, but the boxier, more practical version of essentially this vehicle on the same platform. XC40 Recharge is going to be showing up in my driveway this week. I'm not going to spend too much time here, guys, because look how long this article is, and I'm not going to put you guys to sleep. But I think like one of the most important things are in these first two graphs here. So what we have, let's try to zoom in. Oh yeah, the power of zoom, guys. It's amazing. So what we have here is a pretty straightforward graph talking about tons of CO2 put into the air. And we have different vehicles here, the C40 and the XC40 Recharge, fully electric models, and what their emissions are over the lifetime of the vehicle, well, in terms of CO2, that is, depending on the energy source. So if we look at the bottom one, materials of production refining, that is the same throughout, okay? Lithium-ion batteries, well, they use the same battery. That's the same as well. All right, Volvo car manufacturing is this dark blue. That stays the same between all of them. Now, phase emissions, use phase emissions. So What is going on here? Why? This is the X factor of this graph. So depending on where you get your electricity, the emissions that this vehicle is putting on the atmosphere, of course, changes. So if we just look, guys, if we look at like the first half of this graph, it's in the production of these vehicles. A ton of byproducts are made from the production of cars. So it doesn't matter if it's an EV or a gas car. We'll actually look into this in a little bit with the next graph. But EVs especially are a huge toll on the environment when they're produced. And depending on where you get your energy to recharge that battery afterwards, makes it clean, less clean, or maybe worse than a gas car. So here we go. If you get, depending on the energy, right? If we look at wind energy on both of them, it's very, very low emissions, right? Sustainable or renewable energy. But for getting it from an electric grid in Europe, you can see the differences here. Now, the XC40 must be a little less efficient than the C40, right? Aerodynamics more than likely. So that's why it has a bigger impact. But let's go down to this next one, because this one is mind-blowing. So we're going to be comparing similar, right? CO2, tons of emission. Let's see, make sure I got you guys here. Why do people have to insist on black and white solutions for complex problems? Because our brains are simple and people don't want to look into or accept more than one or two things as truth. All right. So look at the gas vehicle here, the gas XC40. The emissions that it takes to produce this vehicle are nearly half of what it takes to create the battery electric vehicle. And so you look at this as well. So it's like, okay, well, it's actually more if you're not even counting the battery. If you're just talking about the manufacturing and getting the materials for production, it's far more on a battery electric vehicle than it is on an ICE vehicle before the battery is even like taken into account, right? And the reason is that we have these permanent magnet motors. That's my guess anyways. And they might say that in this article. I'm not going to spend my whole day reading it, but permanent magnet motors are far more destructive than the amount of CO2 tons are put in the environment. In order to get the rare earth metals needed, China has been polluting and been dumping this pollution, tons of pollution in parts of China and Mongolia to refine these rare earth metals to make permanent magnet motors. It's insane. So that's why like all 90% of battery and electric motor production is in China. They don't care as much about the environment seemingly, or their environment or their surrounding environments. And most of their electricity is from coal. So even though they have tons of, well, and maybe nuclear as well. So anyways, don't want to go too far on the China thing because they are the front runners of electrification and maybe the ones trying to get the whole ball rolling because their economy is so heavily into electrification. So, all right. Look how long it, like, yes, during the lifetime of the petrol vehicle, it creates more CO2 emissions, right? But how long does that take? And so we have this graph here. So this dotted line is the ICE vehicle or the XC40 non-recharged gasoline turbo, right? And so the emissions it puts out over its lifetime is pretty linear. It starts really low, right? And only at about 50,000 kilometers does it reach CO2 parity with what else? The renewable wind energy. At 50,000 Ks, that's when it breaks even. How many people are able to get 100% wind energy in the world? Not on this side of the world, the Western Hemisphere. It's not going to happen. Now the EU 28 mix. So if we look at like the clean energy in Europe, it would take 77,000 kilometers for the gas car to break even with CO2 with a battery car. Now, if you look at global electricity mix, on average on the world, it takes 110,000 kilometers for these vehicles to break even. Who knows if the gasoline or the electric car even make it that far? We don't know. And that's another question altogether. Is it going to make it 110K? I don't know. You know, reliability of Volvos isn't what it used to be. So that's just a lot of food for thought there, and makes me wonder, are gas engines and diesel engines going away anytime soon? I don't think so, especially with the power grid as you guys are mentioning. So Kirk, what can you say about the solar EV Aptra? Now, I've been following Aptra for a long time, but not recently, if that makes sense. I remember seeing their airplane like three-wheel vehicles, I don't know, at least a decade ago. Yeah, it's cool. I just don't know, is it safe? Is it a safe vehicle? It seems to be super, super lightweight. And three wheels on the road. At least the old ones were. I don't know what the new ones are. So I don't know. And how fast can it go? That's another thing as well. I mean, if it's aerodynamic, it might take a while to get up to speed, but if it's aerodynamic, it might be able to get there. All right, so ethanol is a scam. Yeah, well, yeah, I don't want to go down the ethanol route, but yeah, ethanol is subsidized corn, destroy fields in Nebraska or in Iowa where I'm from, like government subsidized corn. Yeah, it's a mess, and it creates a lot of emissions just to create that ethanol. All right. We're over at Diesel Technology Forum. This is one of the articles that inspired me to do this live stream today because, you know, a lot of the emissions in the atmosphere come from freight, whether it's trains or, you know, cargo ships or semis. So what's interesting here, I'm gonna, can I open this in a new, maybe not. I'll do my best to zoom in here. So pretty much what they're saying is that it costs them like 3 to 4 times more. Here it is. It costs 75% less to go over to like clean diesel for their diesel fleets than it is to go fully electric for their you know, semis. So that which company is going to spend 3 to 4 times more to have less range, more problems, etc. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So business as usual, the diesel upgrade, EV replacements. I'm not going to go too much into this. I just found this really interesting, especially for fleet vehicles, which I never really cover on the channel. 2022 to 2023 cumulative greenhouse gas emission reductions. So if they switch over to 100% renewable diesel and biodiesel, it's going to have the greatest reduction in CO2 than like EVs. Now, if you look at EV US mix, it's still positive. But if you go to EV and you have a different, like, I'm not quite sure where they're getting their energy. I don't know if this means Vermont. I think this also, I don't know. I'm not going to break down this graph, but if the energy isn't clean, where you're getting to charge these EVs, then you're doing the environment more harm. So yes, I don't think diesel is going to be replaced anytime soon. For commercial vehicles, battery electric vehicles are not going to do it. Hydrogen vehicles could do it, just infrastructure is not there, and we need to renewably create this hydrogen, and that's a problem right now. For making it from the power grid with coal and natural gas, it's what's the point, you know, other than for just like testing and stuff like that. All right, let's keep going. Mazda here. You know, I saw my first MX-30 on the road. I was in California for the Honda Civic Type R reveal. Leaving the airport, I saw an MX-30 and I'm like, what? Someone actually bought one of these things? I know that a few have showed up on the sales report in the past few months, but It blew my mind. And then I remembered this article talking about how Mazda specifically picked a small battery for CO2 emission offset, because if they created a big battery, this vehicle is going to take a real long time for it to catch up to like a gas car with how much how much CO2 it's put into the atmosphere. So it only has a 35.5 kilowatt hour battery. Range is approximately 124 miles. And it doesn't AC fast charge or AC 240 volt charge very quickly. DC rapid charging does not, it's not that quick either. So here we go. This methodology considers not only CO2 emitted by the cars themselves while driving, but also the emissions caused by the extraction and refinery of fuel or the generation of electricity in the case of BEVs. All right. So moreover, in the context of EVs and the batteries they use, Mazda considers it important to consider the need to reduce CO2 emissions over the entire life cycle. Let's see here. To that end, Mazda believes the MX-30's battery capacity of 35.5 kilowatt hours provides an optimum balance of between driving range, which gives customers peace of mind, and CO2 emissions from an LCA perspective. So they could have put a bigger battery in it, but they're like, this vehicle is meant for the environment. And if we make the battery too big, it just starts making no sense at all. So that's why Mazda's battery is so small and its specs are so meager, because this vehicle is not for making sense for the average consumer. It's to have a product of the future that also makes sense for the environment. So it's pretty much better off that they don't have this vehicle on the market, because people love to hate on it. I can't even review it because it can't make it here from across the Everglades, essentially. I live like 120 miles from Miami, so it can't make it across here. They offered to drop this vehicle off. I think Joe Rady up the road for me had it, and it took them forever to get the vehicle to him because they had to stop and recharge, as well as other charging ports weren't working, things like of that nature. So they offered it to me. I was out of town, so they didn't drop it off, and I'm not going to drive to Miami just to test out the MX-30. So yeah, anyways, just felt like bringing that up. I feel like it's time for a poll. So thank you guys for coming out, by the way. There's 100 of you. Totally spur of the moment, pretty much. I didn't plan on live streaming today, but I had too many articles to discuss in a single video for me to put out. Like, the video would have been way too long, way too much editing. So I thought I would just do a live stream, hang out with you guys a little bit. So, okay, let's do a little poll here. And I got to put a timeline on it. So in the next 20 years, which will reign supreme? Okay. BEV, question mark. BEV. We'll do ICE, gas, diesel, biodiesel, anything, alt fuels. I'll put that. Or fuel cell. I really think those are only options right now. Plus, oh no, I'm out of diesel. Let's do this. Hybrids. Alt fuels. Okay, there we go. That makes sense. I mean, if you look at hybrids probably, like, if you have a real small battery pack, hybrid, and like a really small efficient car, hybrids are probably the best for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. They don't have a huge tax, like when we were looking at the Volvos. They don't have a huge Let's go here. Like overhead in terms of materials production and refining, normal hybrids, and the lithium battery is massive. So even if you have a plug-in hybrid that has, let's say, a quarter or less, a fifth of the battery of the lithium ion required in a BEV, I mean, you're still way below the emissions needed. So batteries just require a ton of refining and energy and therefore emissions to produce. New sales or total fleet? Like, let's say in 20 years, oh gosh, you guys, in 20 years from now, what is going to be new car sales? Are they going to be largely BEV? Are they going to be largely gas, diesel, hybrids, and alternative fuels? Or is it going to be fuel cells? I think fuel cell has a really good chance to increase its take rate like 30, 40 years from now when we can sustainably make hydrogen. I don't know whether from nuclear, I don't know what else is going to do it. Fission? Is fission going to give us just a stupid abundance of energy so we can have hydrogen as essentially our energy after that? Does that make sense? Because we'll have so much energy, we got to store it as something. And creating hydrogen from it would make sense instead of having tons of batteries or batteries. Obviously, we just talked about the destruction batteries have. At least the battery technology that we have now. Now, we could make huge advancements in batteries that could make gas and diesel cars and hybrid, well, actually hybrids. Here's the thing, as battery technology advances, hybrids and plug-in hybrids get more attractive, as well as BEVs. But BEVs are only so attractive because of their limitation in charging and the limitation in the power grid of the local country where they're sold, etc. So BEVs have a lot of hurdles, but hybrids still have so much improvement left in them. Especially if you can get a hybrid diesel that runs on biodiesel, like that, like, or plug-in hybrid diesel, like, and diesels, are so efficient. They can run at a low RPM. I would imagine they would do a really good job at charging batteries pretty quickly, but I don't know if they're as good as gas engines as turning off and on. I don't know how that works with them. So a PHEV with a solid state would be the best option. Yeah, Toyota, you would think Toyota would have them by the end of this decade, but who the heck knows? Who the heck knows? Like, I see solid state as the holy grail. Maybe I'll see it before I'm dead, but all these battery manufacturers saying it's going to be, by 2025 to 2028, depending on the company you're talking about. I don't know. I just said my expectation is extraordinarily low when it comes to solid state. So we're going to move on. This is recent news, mind you. Do I have a date for this? July 20th. 6 private companies established Research Association of Biomass Innovation for Next Generation Automobile Fuels. The start of research on bioethanol fuel production to achieve carbon neutral society. So this is kind of going in line with what we've been talking about so far. So far, you guys are saying 50%. And I think this is probably accurate, guys, to like in 20, gosh, what would it be, 2040? I don't even know what year it is. 2040, 2042. Gas hybrids, diesel hybrids, as well as alt fuels will still be about 50% on the road. Then you'll have plenty of BEVs. I mean, BEVs make a lot of sense if you never leave your general area. We just don't have the infrastructure to make it practical. Yes, you can go out of your way and make sure there's a charging port on the route you take, but you don't know if that charging port is going to be full or if those chargers are going to be working. There's just a lot of unknowns with BEVs. So gas card, you don't even have to have a map. Just drive anywhere you want. You're going to find a gas station. As long as you're not like in the desert or something, you're pretty much screwed no matter what you're driving. And fuel cell, I think, will continue to grow very slowly. Probably the slowest growing, but it might have the best legs out of all of them. Once we discover fission, and then there's an abundance of hydrogen as our energy storage medium, then fuel cells, like, right? I mean, fuel cells make a ton of sense. EVs ruin the car community, guys. They're part of the car community. They're just a different spectrum. If power goes out during a storm, you can't buy gas. Well, the gas stations have generators, right? To pump the gas. Right? They have all the energy they need to store it as gas, so they can run generators. That happens in hurricanes, so that point doesn't make a lot of sense. But if your whole power grid's down, I mean, everyone's screwed, doesn't it? I mean, you're just screwed at that point. Jay Votteller Jr. Sorry if I butchered your name. Push way too hard, way too fast. EVs aren't as clean as a common individual would believe. Our infrastructure is dirty and can't handle EVs. They aren't available or affordable. I agree with pretty much most of that. Michael White, I don't think there will be one solution. I don't think so either. Toyota's multi-pronged solution is multi-pronged. I mean, I don't want to be redundant, but they have hybrids. Hybrids will be a big part of the future, which include plug-in hybrids. You also have EVs, battery electric vehicles. You'll have normal internal combustion vehicles as well by 2030, still playing, I think, 10%, maybe more of their total global fleet. And then they also will have maybe 5% or something of hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So James G. Kirk, there will be a power bank for BEVs. It's called a Zip Charge Go, a size of a small carry-on spinner. It has a trolley handle with wheels as well. Pre-orders will commence sometimes this year. Well, yeah, you can. There are already things like that exist where you can have battery, like a battery backup. Most of those are sodium-ion batteries. They're not as energy dense, but they last a long time, and so they're perfect for houses and just backup energy for houses. So stuff like that exists already, but maybe not in the trolley sort of situation, like a carry-on bag that can. But like, is that really going to charge your vehicle that much if it's like a suitcase? That's what I'm imagining. It's not going to charge what? Well, will it put like 40 miles back in your vehicle? Mono Neo, gas station. Well, you have a built-in gas station in your house with an EV every day. You can have a full tank. Gas stations here do not have generators here, Pacific Northwest. Yeah, but generators are not that hard to get either. You can also have mobile generators, like on semis too, right? You can also have built-in gas. Yeah, so yeah, EV. I'm not saying EVs are bad. They're worse for the environment, depending on, well, at production and also after production, depending on how clean the energy is you're getting to fill your battery up or recharge your battery. But EVs make a lot of sense if you don't have to drive very far outside of your area. If you just fly outside of your area to get to other parts of the country or other parts of the world, and you never leave town, an EV is all you need. I don't have any issue with that. So it's just, especially here in America, the EV charging structure is bad and our power grid's terrible. So in order for EVs to make more sense, battery technology needs to get better. The power grid needs to get a little bit more fortified, and we need to have essentially endless energy, fission, or just more nuclear, which is fusion. We need fusion energy. Gosh, I've been probably saying that wrong the whole time. Whether it's fusion or fission, fusion's cleaner, but we just don't have it. But I wouldn't mind more fission nuclear, because that is still cleaner in theory than coal and natural gas probably, and you get tons of energy out of it as long as you don't have like a meltdown. So yeah, fusion is the holy grail for electrification. Maybe I'll see it in my lifetime, but not going to get my hopes up. Sorry if I said that wrong the whole time. Probably seemed like an idiot saying fission for fusion and vice versa. It's easy to get mixed up. I'm human. I'm human, guys. All right. More trains. Yeah, here's the thing. Also, the real solution for if you guys want to be a more sustainable electrics or just a more sustainable society, ride your bike more, walk places, have an electric bicycle or less electric egg bicycle, assuming the battery doesn't turn to junk after a year or two. So there are plenty of ways to reduce your impact with the transportation. Public transportation is huge. I talked about BYD this week as BYD enters Japan with 3 different electric vehicles starting in January 2023. Then all 3 of those vehicles will be on the market by the end of 2023 in Japan. They already sell electric buses there. BYD already sells battery electric buses here stateside, and they produce them, I believe, in California. I think there might also be a plant in Pacific Northwest, maybe even in Canada. So very interesting what's going on the public transportation end. Gosh, yeah. Anyways, which are these companies that are working together at the Toyota Global page here? Well, we have Eneos, we have Suzuki, we have Subaru, we have Daihatsu, we have Toyota, and Toyota Tsusho. Pretty much, I mean, I don't know about Eneos, but the rest of these Toyota, it's either Toyota owns them, it's Toyota themselves, or Toyota has a big stake in them. Like Daihatsu's like 50% Toyota, Subaru's 20%, Suzuki's like 5% or something. I'm surprised Yamaha's not in here, but we'll talk about, I think I have some Yamaha news, or did. I may have had, but Yamaha is working with Toyota to make internal combustion engines work with hydrogen fuel. So that's what they're doing. So I thought this was interesting. I actually haven't read this article or looked at any of this. If you guys want to just look at this graphic here, that might help you get an idea of what's going on, but I'm not going to break it down. I'll read your comments, and some of you guys can read this graphic here on their idea of how to get this sustainable fuel. America railroad industry died a long time ago, but we still need it for so much transporting coal, transporting vehicles, transporting goods. It's a big, big, important thing in our industry. And maybe that's the Nebraska boy in me. Nebraska is huge for railroads. We have, yeah, a lot of different railroad companies that go through there, especially North Platte. The railroad industry is actually doing better worldwide than it ever has. Mass transit is more popular than ever. USA is no different. I mean, there used to be a train in my town where I live in Naples. That's how the city came about. Trains are pretty fascinating, especially when you talk about the history of the country, history of every country. Like the backbone of the country was railways for so long. Now that with the interstate systems, it's not as relevant as it used to be, and the big barges and stuff that go internationally, as well as air travel, that has changed the game as well. But trains are still super efficient, I think, for transporting goods. Big procrastinator. When electricity prices surge, he doesn't think it'll ever get cheaper. Drivers would benefit from plug-in hybrid platforms indefinitely. Well, if when plug-in hybrid vehicles get more affordable. Right now, I don't think the average person, even with $5 to $7 a gallon gasoline, it would take a while for them to offset not only the CO2 emissions of creating the battery, but also the CO2 emissions of the fuel that you're burning and the price differences, because plug-in hybrids are still expensive. And gosh, I just drove the Nero plug-in hybrid. Really liked it. I mean, I could see myself easily utilizing that vehicle pretty regularly, hardly ever using gasoline, but it costs 38K and it's pretty basic materials, like 38K, guys. Like, I don't know. Like, buying the normal hybrid probably would make more sense for the average person. Once we have like affordable PHEVs, or if they're at like cost parity of normal hybrids, meaning normal hybrids probably are no, like essentially we would need new battery technology for plug-in hybrids to take off even more than they are now. And we could have that by the end of the decade with solid state battery. Ineos is the biggest gas station chain in Japan. Okay, there you go. I've heard of Idemitsu as well. So pretty exciting stuff. We're not done. We got a few more articles. We'll pivot a little bit to Europe as well at the very end, because the European companies aren't completely sold. Oh, and I should probably talk about, let's go to automotive news. So I want to talk about this going on as well, because that one I don't know why he was kicked out. The Herbert Diess Herbert Diess from Volkswagen, who pretty much stepped down, their CEO. So, anyways, July 19th. So this is the day before. July 19th, the Isuzu Toyota Hino CJPT to promote planning and development of mass market light duty fuel cell electric trucks. That's pretty cool. Also, I don't have the article up, but Toyota and a bunch of other companies, Daihatsu as well, they'll be working on battery electric K cars. Now, Mitsubishi and Nissan already came out with theirs, like the Nissan Sakura. Probably will be on sale by the end of the year. But yeah, Toyota and their subsidiaries like Daihatsu with their K cars will be entering the market as well with electric K. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. Electric K cars, especially if you don't have to drive across Japan. But anyways, and the affordability is there too, like around $15,000 for an electric K car, and you'll have around, I don't know, I think it's around 100 miles of range or something. So not too shabby. Not too shabby. So 54% of you think hybrids, gas, diesel, internal combustion engines are still going to be the majority of vehicles on the road, with a good percentage of battery electric vehicles and fuel cells as well. So Toyota, 3.5 million EVs. I don't know if I have the... So this was in December. And here's the crazy thing. So I was at Evolution 2.0 in Encinitas, California. That was in November. And at that time, they were estimating like 2 million battery electric vehicles by 2030. And then the month later, Toyota shocked us with their huge EV presentation and upped their battery electric vehicle expectation from 2 million to 3.5 million in a month. It was ridiculous. Anyways, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. There's Akio Toyoda himself. Toyota will sell 3.5 million battery electric vehicles by 2030. And if they sell 10 million is what they sell per year right now. So looking at your guys' numbers here are saying 38% of BEVs will be... It's so funny. BEVs is about lining up perfectly 38% to about 35% of what Toyota is expecting to make. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I almost see a parallel here of Toyota's expectations as your guys' expectations. Quite strange. All right, and it also talks about their. Here we go. Um, do we have hybrids? Does it say they're hybrids? Okay, so 8 million electric and hybrid cars globally in 2030. So was that 5.5 million? 5.5 million will be hybrid. So that's about 55%, right? Is going to be hybrid, and that's what you guys are saying. You guys are saying 53%. Toyota's saying about 55% is going to be hybrid. Well, but that also includes electric vehicles, so maybe not quite the same. Maybe not quite the same. Toyota's actually expecting a less high percentage of hybrids than it is than you guys are, somewhere around there. Anyways, I'm probably getting too far off subject here, but anyways, we're gonna go to Car and Driver here. Synthetic e-fuels are coming as Porsche invests 75 million in maker of carbon neutral product. So this was in April, this April 2022, and yes, like Porsche is not done. Porsche is not done with the internal combustion engine. They want synthetic fuels as much as Toyota does, probably as much as Mazda does. We'll talk a little bit. So I thought this is pretty cool. They're a Chilean company. So I haven't read this article. I just saw the headlines. They have developed a method of creating a synthetic liquid fuel that can be used in any gasoline burning engine and is also almost carbon neutral. That sounds amazing. I mean, diesel is going to be a lot easier to create biodiesel for and alternative fuels for diesel. But if we can find something for gasoline that does about the same that biofuel does for diesel, that's really going to help the gasoline engine, internal combustion engine out massively. So pretty cool. Porsche said it remains committed to electric powertrains for future models, but it doesn't want to leave its current customers behind. Well, I think they're just saying that, but also they don't want to shoehorn themselves into battery electric vehicles. What if there's a battery shortage? What if the demand isn't there in the future as well? And they also have billions of dollars invested in the advancement of the internal combustion engine. Just to throw that away in a matter of 10 years, does that make sense? Not to me. So you got to kind of hedge your bets here. So dump money into companies that can help your previous investments stay relevant. Scion can make cool. What? Scion? Big procrastinator about Porsche CEO, which is Bloom, is now Volkswagen CEO. I think he's actually CEO of Volkswagen and Porsche at this point in time. Because Volkswagen wants to invest in offering EVs and sustainable fueled ICE engine for years to come. Porsche's synth fuel project is behind this. That was my guess the whole time too, right? So this is big news, and I don't really cover the Germans much, or you guys know that, but I always read industry news. So Bloom is replacing Diess because maybe Diess was too headstrong into EVs only as the only answer for the future, and this Bloom guy who's been investing in synth fuels might help Volkswagen just have a way to be sustainable no matter which timeline the future goes to, right? And which technologies are relevant in the next 10, 20 years. So I think this guy might be a better fit to just keep the wheels on the ground for Volkswagen. If they go battery electric too much, too fast, might not be a good thing for them. It could prove to be genius, but like I said, they've invested billions of dollars and billions of man hours in research and developing gasoline and diesel engines. You just throw that all out the window. It doesn't make a lot of sense. To me, it's like they haven't tried hard enough to figure out how to get their crown jewel, the internal combustion engine, running on environmentally safe fuels. That should be the headstrong thing right now. I guess that's what my take is of reading all this. Internal combustion engine can be clean, and it is extremely practical. It's easy to work on. I don't want to work on batteries. I don't want to do it. It's easier. And like mechanics, if you take it to a mom and pop mechanic in your neighborhood with a battery electric vehicle, good luck, right? It's just not going to be a part of the future working on your battery electric vehicles. I don't see it happening. I almost see them as disposable. I hope that's not the case, because no one knows how to recycle lithium-ion batteries right now. So we need the internal combustion engine to be able to run on more fuel that's environmentally friendly, and just more versatile, in my opinion. So EVs will make it easy to steal batteries. I don't get that. No one knows what the future holds for the industry. No one does. Diesel will likely be hired by Tesla. He's good buddy with... Yeah, no, it's true. It is true. They like to scratch each other's back. That is for sure. They're saying that they fired Deese because he's bad at communication. Like, that is the worst. That's just like an easy cop out. That's way too general. Maybe he was. Maybe Deese just didn't talk. Like, are you kidding me? That doesn't make any sense to me. Your CEO just isn't. So it's like you hired a guy in the first place that you knew was bad at communicating. Didn't make sense. That almost seems like a cop out. So it probably just didn't align with the board, Volkswagen's board of, I don't know how car companies work. They're so big, they're so powerful, and if the people who control the company wanted the CEO out, replace him with someone that aligns with their idea of the future for the company, they'll do it in a heartbeat. Yeah, he's still remaining in charge of Porsche. Now, there's also been talks about Porsche becoming its own intellectual property and put on the stock market, kind of like how Tesla, or who else? Polestar just did that. Polestar is on the NASDAQ, I believe, now. Oliver Bloom is a team player who does not push himself into the limelight. Okay. I guess that might be more in line with the culture in Germany as well. I'm not quite sure. Bloom's position has been elevated fairly recently following that new... okay. Oh yeah, I just talked about the potential mega IPO. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but it's pretty fun to think about. Let's see here. Yeah, Porsche investing in synth fuels. Mazda promotes the next generation of biofuels and endurance race. So they've been using biodiesel in their Mazda 2 bio concept and the Super Taikyu Racing Series. Toyota's been using a hydrogen internal combustion engine with Yamaha. That's been really cool to see. They're using the 3-cylinder from the GR Corolla and GR Yaris, and they're using it to run on hydrogen with a few modifications. So pretty cool. Yeah, we know Mazda really likes diesel, but the problem is they haven't been able to get it here stateside really, other than the CX-5 for a year. And gosh, I really want diesel to work in the United States. I just think it only works in commercial vehicles, unfortunately, because of our legislations and rules here. All right. We got more German stuff. BMW is investing in, and this was 2 years ago, June 10th of 2020, BMW invested in Prometheus Fuels. And they plan to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and convert it into gasoline. That's crazy. They plan to sell this fuel at gas stations later this year at a price comparable to the conventional gasoline. BMW said Prometheus also plans to make diesel and jet fuel. I don't know. That's wild. That sounds really scientific, like science fiction to me. I'm not going to read this on stream, but what do you guys think about that? Taking the CO2 out of the environment and using it as fuel. Hey, the plants do it, but if you're taking that CO2 away from the plants, is that not good for the environment either? And that's the thing. A lot of people are saying CO2, more CO2 in the environment, it's not good for the environment, but we've had way higher levels of CO2 in the environment previously, and where we had way higher levels of vegetation as well. I'm not saying like in human history, but in Earth's history. But the Earth, yeah, like the Earth was hotter than. We also had dinosaurs probably. So I don't know. Is CO2 the enemy? You can debate that, but that's the game that we have to play here. And if CO2 is, the target on its back, we have to find ways to reduce it by changing the fuels and changing the propulsion systems and etc. So I think I'm running out of stuff. This is more recent though. BMW commits to petrol. This is April, this past spring of 2022. ICE production to increase at Toyota as BMW cautions on full EV switch. And I think that's also why Toyota teamed up with BMW. I think they have similar visions of the future and similar philosophies. And that's why they made the Supra together. It's like, okay, well, we need to team up because all these companies around us only think there's one solution for the future, and that's battery electric vehicles. And Toyota's like, that just doesn't make sense. And BMW's like, I know it doesn't make sense. And then you have Volkswagen, who thought it was. They fired the guy who only thought battery electric vehicles were the future. They fired him, brought in the guy at Porsche who's like, no, we need to find ways to make ICE engines still work alongside battery electric vehicles. So I think Mercedes-Benz as well is also pretty open to ICE vehicles as well in the future. So the Germans as well as the Japanese seem to be more conservative than, of course, the Chinese. The Chinese are fully battery electric, only battery electric, maybe even hydrogen. They're into hydrogen as well, by the way. You also have the Americans like Ford and Chevy, and still Ford and Chevy really want battery electric vehicles, a ton of them as soon as possible. Stellantis is more like BMW, more like Toyota, where they don't see it happening. The cost of vehicles are going to be too high, and they're going to be offering multiple solutions. And even Toyota is teamed up with Peugeot in France, which is a part of Stellantis, I believe. And they make battery electric vans, like commercial vans, like transit vans together. So it's interesting that Toyota seems to be working with companies that share similar future mindsets of a multi-solution approach to mobility in the future. Battery electric vehicles, plenty of them. Hybrids, plenty of them. There's even a market in the future for normal diesel, normal gas, no electrification in certain markets in the world. And then you also have hydrogen fuel cell, which over time could surpass all of them in theory. So we'll see. Let's fart our cars to power them. I mean, South Park did it. If we could do it too, right? The grid can't support us today. I agree. All right, I'm going to end the poll. 54% of you say in 2042, the majority of vehicles on the road will still be hybrids, diesels, and gas vehicles. So that's pretty interesting. 10% of you say fuel cells will be more prevalent, and then 35% of you say battery electric vehicles. And I think that's probably a realistic shakedown of the percentage of vehicles will be on the road. So half of them will be internal combustion hybrids, probably, at least here stateside. In Europe, it could be different, but here stateside, half of the vehicles, more than half, are still going to be hybrids with internal combustion engines. 20 years from now, you'll still have about a third of the vehicles as battery electric vehicles on the road, and then you'll have one out of every 10 be fuel cell. And that, of course, that mix will change depending on what state and etc. you're in. So very interesting. I'm going to end that poll and maybe have one last poll before we end today's fun discussion about the future of propulsion for the everyday person. So let's start a new poll, a poll to end it all. All right. I started a new poll there. Hopefully, hopefully the poll didn't at all ominous. Yes. So there's a new poll up for you guys. And I think I'm pretty much out of articles to go over. Did I go over this one? Yes, I did. I already went over that. So pretty interesting stuff in the industry. No one knows how far it's going to go to battery electric vehicles, but we're already seeing constraints in battery production. We're also seeing limitations in battery, and just like there are battery advancements going on, but it's not as fast as we need it to be. But more importantly, what fuels those battery electric vehicles is the power grid for the majority anyways. Most people don't have a bunch of windmills and solar cells in their house. So we need more energy, and we need a better power grid. And we're just so far away from that. So all right, new poll is up. Which is your next vehicle? Make sure to vote on this. I'm interested in what you guys think your next vehicle is going to be. Battery electric vehicle, plug-in hybrid, or standard gas/diesel. What is it going to be? Mark put a deposit on Mazda 3 Turbo. August delivery date. Hybrid is too rare, too marked up, not as fun. Well, yeah, no, yes, that it's true. Like right now, hybrids are overly marked up because the demand is huge because of high gas prices. So pretty much screwed with hybrids at this point in time. But if a recession hits, no one's going to be buying cars, right? Very few people. So who knows what's going to be happening the next 2 years, as we seem to be heading straight for something with our economy, and probably the global economy. So the United States economy goes down, everyone else suffers. So, I mean, a Toyota gas hybrid. I'll be driving the new CR-V hybrid in a couple weeks, so that'll be fun. ND2 Miata, yeah, you won't regret getting that vehicle unless you start having kids. Or maybe the kids are gone. ND2 Miata, great vehicle, one of my favorite. We will backtrack to ICE. There's a possibility we might backtrack to ICE, or at least hybrid, right? Yeah, let's talk. I mean, we can talk a little bit about this. A lot of people who are buying expensive vehicles, who bought really expensive houses, like the housing market's crazy right now. But if people lose their job, they overextended themselves to get themselves in a $700,000 house that's really only worth $400,000 or $300,000, like it was just 3 years ago or something. Like, makes me wonder. Like, it's scary to think about. And also interest rates. Like, if you need a house now, interest rates are so high. Oh, makes me want to like throw up in my mouth. Like 6% interest rate on a $600,000 house. Yikes. That is disgusting. KP is getting a GTI, great car. I drove it with the DCT. Eric is coming in from Philadelphia. Thanks for coming in. We're about ready to end the stream. So make sure to vote, guys. 45 votes. I get more votes than that. I got 120 of you guys. So 18% say BEV is next vehicle for you. Plug-in hybrids 13%. I think if plug-in hybrids if we just had more choice, there's like hardly any choice for plug-in hybrid. And I think a plug-in hybrid would make a ton of sense for most people. And the problem also with plug-in hybrids is they're like the tip top like trim levels of the vehicles they're offered in, because they cost more. So the companies that make them are just like, okay, well, cost more, let's load it up with more stuff to just try to get more profit margin on it. So yeah, plug-in hybrids are, if we had more of them, if they were more affordable, I think they would make a ton more sense for the average person. But there's just not a lot of choice there right now. Like, I want a plug-in hybrid minivan, but I'm not going to buy a Dodge, or should I say a Chrysler Pacifica. I'm not going to do it. So anyways, 37% of you are saying standard gas and diesel. So that is still the number one. But if you combine that with hybrid, so that's about nearly 70%. So 67% of you are saying internal combustion engine, non-plug whatsoever. And then about 30%, 32% of you are saying either a plug-in hybrid vehicle or a plug-in battery electric vehicle. Glorified mobile homes. Yeah, people are buying glorified mobile homes for like 300K. I saw something come out of my news feed that said someone built a house from like Home Depot's sheds, and they sold for $250,000, and it looked terrible. It literally looked like a house from those old Western like movie sets. Like, it looked terrible. It just looked like if you leaned on it, it would fall over. Someone bought it for $250K. America. KP, I gave up on trying to get a hybrid or electric vehicle. My 10-year-old Mazda 6 GT is still going strong. No payments. And no payments is the beautiful thing. I have no payments on my cars either, so I'm not like, I don't feel like I need to get a new car anytime soon. So Sienna Prime would be great. Would be excellent. But if a current Sienna's 50K, like a loaded one, and Toyota, is going to throw the kitchen sink at a Sienna Prime, it's going to cost 55, 60K? 60K for a Sienna Prime? Ugh. Yeah, man. I'd rather spend like 35K on a normal one, right? Gosh, you know how much gas money? Like, I would have $20,000 of gas money to throw at my vehicle. And plus, even with a plug-in hybrid, you still use some gas, not hardly that much at all, especially if you just drive around in town. Dream car for family, for just me and my wife? It's hard to say because we have so many little kids, so I can't imagine a car for just me and my wife. For her though, she likes bigger vehicles. She would like something like a Sequoia or something. I like the practicality of a minivan. So there's no dream car right now for us. I wish there was, but it just seems so impractical for our situation. Our oldest kid is 6, our youngest kid is 2. Like, getting a sports car right now doesn't make sense. I love motorcycles. Getting one right now makes no sense either. So it is what it is. Praying for Mazda to re-release the MPV. We'll keep praying. It's not going to happen, I don't think. Robert Nichols is saying builds in Maryland is $700,000 and up. Like you said, makes me want to throw up. Yeah, the housing market. If you think the car market's crazy, the housing market's even more insane. Oh, Crypto saying, if I win the lottery, I'll hook you up. If any of you guys win the lottery, just email me. I'll tell you how you can help me out. The kids would appreciate it. Donna D, I just hate the new Sienna powertrain is whopping slow and underpowered for the old one. Yeah, but I never floored the old minivan. I don't even floor my minivan. My minivan is a V6. Like I floor it like maybe once a month. V6 from 2004. It's got like 220 horse. Like does just fine. I don't need 300 horse on my minivan. If it's their standard, awesome. But I'd be happy to have similar power to what I have now and get double the fuel economy. And that's what the new Sienna does. So no one's racing in their Siennas, even though I like how the Sienna XSE drives because the suspension makes it like feel a lot better in the turns. So that sport tune suspension on the XSE feels great. Really what it does, it just allows you to keep your momentum a little bit better to maximize those MPGs, right? You don't have to slow down as much before you turn. Just keep your speed. New LX or IS? For what? I mean, they're completely different vehicles. They're both awesome for what they are. James G, any recent updates on the rival the MX-30 rotary PHV? If my Aptra pre-order goes kaput, that'll be my next car. You know, other than I know they're going to make it, I haven't heard anything. I hope it doesn't happen like Mazda's diesels were like, hey, we kept trying to bring it to the market and it never really fanned out for them. I think the rotary has a good chance because it's a plug-in hybrid. The reason why the diesel didn't really pan out here is because of emissions. So they just need to find a way to get the rotary to work well as a range extender, essentially. Buying a house or new car is insanity, says PJ. That's unless if you can afford it. Gosh, my wife was just telling me we're talking about real estate here in Naples. Like Naples is a weird place as well where there's just so much wealth down here. Someone bought like a $24 million place and just bulldozed it. That's how much money certain people have. Bulldoze it because they didn't like it, so they put up their own, building their own, I don't know, $40 million house. Hey, I mean, if you have so much money you don't know what to do with, I guess, but it just seems so far from reality for me, even though it's like 20 minutes from here. Jonathan Ratliff, what's up, dude? Thanks for coming out. Hydrogen should be in the list. Yes, well, hydrogen still hydrogen would be like 1 to 2% of you guys picking in the poll. If you guys haven't voted in the poll what kind of propulsion you want in your next vehicle, go ahead and choose that. 40% of you are sticking with standard gasoline or diesel. KP, my wife is drooling over the Highlander. It's a great vehicle. Nothing wrong with it. Robert Nichols, I found this chance by happenstance. Have to subscribe now. Hard to find serious combos. Yeah, no worries. No worries. Thanks for finding me, Robert. That good old YouTube algorithm working for my favor there. Mark Cooper's, are performance hybrids a possibility in the near future? Watching a lot of second gen NSX content. Would love a hybrid. I can just put the chat in front since we're not really covering any news right now. Performance hybrids. Yeah, I mean the like Ferrari's doing it right now, right? So it's a thing, and I think when solid state batteries come out, I think we'll have a new revival of performance hybrids as well. Scotty Kilmer very recently did a deep dive video talking through the issues and logistical nightmares of rushing to do all EVs in the next 10 years. It's a cluster, man. Yeah, it is. And it's not gonna happen. We might have we're going to have tons of battery electric vehicles on the market by 2030, but I think we're going to see demand really balloon here, and then it's going to shrink because power grids are going to be failing. And once people have their BEV, they might go back to gas cars after that, after seeing the restrictions or the limitations with it. And then since in theory they last longer, maybe they don't want to get into a different car. So I don't know. There's just so many unknowns. And the state, Dennis is saying the state of Louisiana EV is not a good choice. Hurricanes tear down our grid every other year. Yeah, I mean, God bless you if you're in Louisiana. That's a tough place to live. Like Florida gets its fair share of hurricanes too, but I think we're like the infrastructure here is just a little bit better suited for hurricanes. Hydrogen is a non-start. Well, yeah, for most people, hydrogen doesn't make any sense because there are no fueling stations. But long-term hydrogen makes a ton of sense if you have an abundance of energy to create hydrogen as the fuel or the energy storage instead of tons of wasteful batteries that are hard to recycle. The problem with the new Sienna is that the cargo space is small compared to the old one. I think the big problems I have with the new Sienna, the second row seats are not removable, and the DVD system doesn't exist. You have to plug in your own. It's a nightmare to work the infotainment system. That's important for me. Like my 2004 Sienna, it's the top of the line. DVD player works in it great. Pick up a $5 DVD at Target or Walmart, whatever. Put it in there. Turn on the car and go. Like, I don't have to do anything. The new ones are just monitors, so you have to plug in a Fire Stick. You gotta like connect your Wi-Fi. Like, it is a complete crap show and makes it pointless. It was really it's really difficult to work with. So you're better off just buying tablets for your kids and saving money on not purchasing the modern DVD entertainment systems without DVD or Blu-ray. So anyways, I've complained about that multiple times. The only one right now that has a Blu-ray player is still the Honda Odyssey. So for what it's worth. Would I buy an Indy 2 Miata or GR86? Indy 2 Miata. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's not even thought for me. I live in Florida, like great weather, and I just love how small and awesome the Indy 2 is. Yeah, they're both fun cars. Don't get me wrong, but then the Miata to me makes me smile more than the 86. Why haven't I talked about the new Hyundai concepts? I just haven't got around to it. They have some cool Hyundai concepts. There's we can go to it. Why the heck not? I just haven't got around to making a video. When End Day was the same day that the Toyota Crown was revealed. So that gives you an idea of why I was busy. All right. So let's talk about some of these vehicles here. Should be able to find it. Maybe. So Hyundai's also working with eVTOLs. Wait, is it no longer in the news piece? All right, I'm gonna have to scroll down. It's the 15th. Here we go. These guys. I guess it came out on the 14th. 14th, but it'd been the 15th in Korea. All right, let me switch out so I can see what you guys are saying here. So, yes, we have Ioniq 5N to be launched in 2023. Hyundai Motor today premieres two high-performance concepts: the RN22E, which looks like the Ioniq 6, and then you also have the Envision 74. So the RN22E uses the eGMP platform using Ioniq 6 body, like I just mentioned, but the Envision 74, now we're talking about alternative propulsion systems here, is a high-performance hydrogen fuel cell hybrid model inspired by both Hyundai N 2025 Vision Gran Turismo and Hyundai Pony Concept Coupe from 1974. So, out of these vehicles, I don't even know what to call it. What is it? Envision 74. The Envision 74 is insane. It reminds me of like an old Japanese car from the 80s. Like I would say like a 240SX or something, or like a Sylvia from Nissan. Like that, this thing just looks super cool. I love how it looks. But the propulsion system is the interesting piece here, other than it's super, I went too far back. Here we go. So let's see here if they give us more details. I think they do. I actually haven't read this press release. Introducing upcoming, a glimpse of upcoming EVN is the RN22E. So we'll probably have an Ioniq 6N, just like we're having an Ioniq 5N. But we don't have any details. Oh, maybe we do. Oh, well, this is a RN22 specification. So it's a concept car. So total max power, 430 kilowatts. I used to know the conversion in my head, kilowatts of horsepower. So that thing has 570. Oh, it's the same. It's the exact same as the EV6 GT. Right? Yeah, same thing. Same battery capacity too. Max speed 250 kilometers per hour. Charging time under it, yeah. Same old. Now this is the cool thing here, because not only does the vehicle look insane, but it's using hydrogen. So I'm looking in its first high-performance rolling lab built on the most advanced hydrogen fuel cell system the Hyundai N has ever created. Envision 74 is also inspired by the concept car Hyundai N 2025 Vision Gran Turismo, which was unveiled in 2015. Hyundai's engineers developed a hybrid structure of a battery electric in combination with the fuel cell electric vehicle system, which in place in an all-new layout, having fuel cell system and battery electric powering the Envision 74 together. This was kind of alluded to by Albert Bierman. When was that, late last year, when they were talking about the future event. So, and that also keeps, in theory, maybe weight down. It's hard to say, but it's pretty cool, pretty gnarly. Total, so it's just rear wheel drive, I think. 500 kilowatts. So it's even more powerful. What we saw here, 430. So we're talking like 600 plus horsepower. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, I'm going to shut it down. It's getting late for me. And I'm ready to sign off. So thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate you. To end the poll, 41% said standard gas and diesel is your next car. 26% said hybrid. Then it was battery electric at 17%, and then plug-in hybrid at 16%. So what did we learn tonight? Well, the future is very unclear for cars in the auto industry. The demand of customers, as we just saw, is still gas and diesel, and hybrid not that far behind that. So battery electric vehicles, the demand there, at least from my audience, is only 17%, and the rest of you still having an internal combustion engine in your vehicle. So yeah, next few years will be interesting. Battery electric vehicles aren't as clean as these companies pushing them seem to be, and internal combustion engine vehicles could be extremely clean if we can have mass production of sustainable fuels, or just low impact fuels, biofuels, synthetic fuels. So anyways, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Definitely stay tuned for lots of cool stuff. Got some events coming up this year. I know for sure I will not. Oh, by the way, I will not be driving the GR Corolla at the event. I had to turn it down. It's just too much traveling for me next month. So I will have like official details on the GR Corolla, but it's literally just a few days after I'd get home from driving the new RX. That takes precedence for me. And earlier in the month, so early August, I'll also be driving the new CRV. So a lot of traveling, had to turn down the GR Corolla. And then I'll be driving the Crown later this year, as well as like hybrid, Corolla Cross, the new Corolla hybrid, the new Highlander as well, the Highlander refresh. So that will all be coming to later this year. I'll have some more Acura stuff for you. Can't say anything about that. I'll drive the new Type R as well, I'm sure. I don't know what else. But Toyota did make sure I'm very high on the list for press fleet when the GR Corolla, not the Core Edition, the one above that, the Circuit Edition. When that comes out, I'm gonna be high on that list to get it in the press fleet. So I'm excited to bring it to you guys. But anyways, gotta cut myself off. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Stay tuned for all the good stuff and in terms of Japanese and Korean cars. I didn't really get a chance to talk about the Koreans today, other than ending here with some concepts for their end line. But catch you guys in the next one. Have a good night and peace out.